All right, we're getting in the very latest coming in on Syed Ali Shah Geelani's passport controversy. The Defence Minister Manohar Parrikar has come out and stated that Geelani must fill Indian as his nationality if he needs a passport. Speaking at Manthan Aaj Tak, Parrikar said if Geelani does write Indian on the passport, it will be first round of victory against the separatist leader. Let's listen in.
रक्षा मंत्री जी, क्या आपके हिसाब से सैयद अली शाह गिलानी को हिंदुस्तान का पासपोर्ट दिया जाना चाहिए?
पासपोर्ट मेरे डिपार्टमेंट में नहीं आता है।
पर फिर भी आप रक्षा मंत्री हैं देश के, एक ऐसा शख्स जो कि हिंदुस्तान के नेशनल सिक्योरिटी के खिलाफ काम करता है, क्या उसको हिंदुस्तान का पासपोर्ट मिलना चाहिए? फिलोसॉफिकल लेवल पे आप क्या सोचते?
फिलोसॉफिकल लेवल में पहला उसमें से ये पासपोर्ट देने के लिए उनको एप्लीकेशन करना पड़ेगा और एप्लीकेशन कॉलम में नेशनलिटी इंडियन लिखनी पड़ेगी, नहीं तो पासपोर्ट नहीं मिलेगा। So that is the first round of victory over him. He doesn't consider himself as an Indian. Now this is the first round that he has considered himself as an Indian. If he has applied for passport.
क्योंकि 2011 में तो मिला.
But if he has applied for passport, it definitely has to have this column as Indian for asking for a passport. Otherwise, when you are signing, you are accepting that you are Indian. बहुत अच्छा हो गया।
चलिए इनको माइक दीजिए।
सेपरेटिस्ट है उनको सबको ये एप्लीकेशन करने को बोलो। Their basic political, we don't realize their basic political charter is compromised by them if they take Indian passport.
All right, let's cut across to our deputy editor Shiv Arur, who's joining us right now from the newsroom. Shiv, you know, interesting take, even at a philosophical level. What the defence minister said clearly states it down for what it is, because even the government at one level is playing to protocol, but it states the obvious: fill in that form, don't leave anything blank.
Absolutely. It's the first time that a senior minister in the government, has sent out a pretty no-nonsense message, pretty typical of Manohar Parrikar, Preeti, straight to Syed Ali Shah Geelani, saying, if you want a passport, you're going to have to fill in all the columns, which is what the government has been saying off the record. But I have to say, this is the first time that a senior minister has come on record about this, very sensitive issue that's sort of hogging the headlines at this point of time. He says that you have to say you're Indian. Your nationality has to be Indian if you want an Indian passport. How can it really be any other way? He's also said, I mean, and this can be interpreted as a political jibe. It can be interpreted as, as Manohar Parrikar, taking a swipe at Syed Ali Shah Geelani. But he's saying that if Syed Ali Shah Geelani fills up the, the blank that the field that he left blank originally under nationality, if he says that he's Indian, then half the war against him has actually been won, because obviously he's referring to the fact that Syed Ali Shah Geelani is a separatist, doesn't call India his own, has visited Pakistan many times, is a bit of a troublemaker as far as the security establishment that Manohar Parrikar heads is concerned. So obviously this is the first time that you've got a senior minister, putting it straight. He's played it on the line. He's said, this is a person who wants a passport. It's not my ministry. But as far as I know, as far as the rules are concerned, if you want an Indian passport, your nationality has to be Indian. So if Syed Ali Shah Geelani wants a passport, Manohar Parrikar says he'd better say, fill it up and say that he's Indian when he applies for it.
All right, so this is what a senior minister, the defence minister, has said, Shiv. But let's look at it on the other way. If you objectively look at what the MHA has proposed, they've said follow protocol, fill in the form, and we will treat it like a normal citizen of the country. At the same level, with all that's going on in the valley, the political war which is going on this with the valley, this is the perfect way, don't you reckon, that the government could have handled it? Because they're saying enough, but just sticking to protocol.
Correct, except that the government is actually speaking in two voices today, Preeti. You're right when you say that, perhaps the safest way the government can actually play this is by falling back on protocol, which is what, everyone you've seen so far from the government speaking on record has said. There's a process. You've got to fill up the form completely. You've got to present yourself in person. There are the usual checks and balances, the security clearances that take place, and then you get your passport. If you're an Indian citizen, you get an Indian passport. It's as simple as that. But you've also got some voices within the government, including Minister of State Kiran Rijiju earlier today, actually come out and say it'll be a political decision, and the political establishment will need to take a call on this, which actually might be a much more honest answer than everything else, ironically, Preeti, because let's face it, this is not merely a protocol issue. Let's not fool ourselves into thinking that the government believes that this is purely a protocol issue. The fact that they're pushing protocol, the fact that Manohar Parrikar has said that protocol must be followed, nationality must be filled in, is a tightrope walk. It's a decision the government has taken because it doesn't want to be seen to be playing politics in what is an extremely sensitive issue. So the question that our managing editor Rahul Kaval has asked Manohar Parrikar is a straight one. It may not be concerned with his ministry, but Manohar Parrikar, as a senior minister, has made it very clear that the strongest voice in the government will fall back on the protocol issue, while there are others within the establishment like Kiran Rijiju, who has voiced perhaps the other side of it, which definitely exists within the government, that no matter what, protocol might be the issue, but it will have to be a political decision in the end.
Shiv, stay on with me. Let's ask our producers to once again play that reaction of the defence minister when asked the question. First, he refused to answer it, but then said enough on a philosophical level. Listen in.
रक्षा मंत्री जी, क्या आपके हिसाब से सैयद अली शाह गिलानी को हिंदुस्तान का पासपोर्ट दिया जाना चाहिए?
पासपोर्ट मेरे डिपार्टमेंट में नहीं आता है।
पर फिर भी आप रक्षा मंत्री हैं देश के, एक ऐसा शख्स जो कि हिंदुस्तान के नेशनल सिक्योरिटी के खिलाफ काम करता है, क्या उसको हिंदुस्तान का पासपोर्ट मिलना चाहिए? फिलोसॉफिकल लेवल पे आप क्या सोचते हैं?
फिलोसॉफिकल लेवल में पहला उसमें से ये पासपोर्ट देने के लिए उनको एप्लीकेशन करना पड़ेगा, और एप्लीकेशन कॉलम में नेशनलिटी इंडियन लिखनी पड़ेगी, नहीं तो पासपोर्ट नहीं मिलेगा। सो दैट इज द फर्स्ट राउंड ऑफ विक्ट्री ओवर हिम। He doesn't consider himself as an Indian. Now this is the first round that he has considered himself as an Indian. If he has applied for
क्योंकि 2011 में तो मिला.
But if he has applied for passport, it definitely has to have this column as Indian for asking for a passport. Otherwise, when you are signing, you are accepting that you are Indian. बहुत अच्छा हो गया।
चलिए इनको माइक दीजिए।
जितने सेपरेटिस्ट हैं उनको सबको एप्लीकेशन करने को बोलो। Their basic political, we don't realize, their basic political charter is compromised by them if they take Indian passport.
All right, let's cut across to my colleague Smita Sharma. She was at Manthan Aaj Tak, where the defence minister said what he did. She's on the phone line with us. Smita, quite interesting there, because this is one big minister. Earlier on today, like Shiv was pointing out, we had Mr. Kiran Rijiju, MOS Home, who came out and said that it would be a political decision. Well, then you have the defence minister. Maybe he's not saying anything because it's got nothing to do with his ministry, but even at a philosophical level, he said enough.
Well, yes, Preeti, for the government, it's not, of course, something that's a very easy decision to make because they do know for sure that if they do go ahead and issue that passport without, of course, complying with all the necessities and the procedural, in fact, requirements, that the opposition will literally hold them by the throat. And in fact, we have been seeing these reactions coming in here at Manthan. I have been talking to senior Congress leaders as well, including leader of the opposition in the Rajya Sabha, Ghulam Nabi Azad, who hails from Jammu and Kashmir himself. I also spoke to RPN Singh, who is the former Minister of State for Home Affairs from the Congress again. Both these leaders, they're suggesting that, while you might just have a humanitarian ground to appeal for that passport, given that Mr. Geelani's daughter has been ailing in Saudi where he wants to go. But having said that, you cannot be making all these, in fact, you cannot be moving away from protocol or moving away from standard procedures for one individual, and especially the individual who is a separatist, who does not, of course, cater to Indianness or to the idea of India.
Right.
So the government does realize there is a lot of pressure on them, and they will, in fact, come under attack if they go ahead and issue that passport, even though it will be a political decision. But for now, Manohar Parrikar in that conclave on that stage making it clear that Mr. Geelani will have to comply with all the procedures here if he wants a passport.
Smita, it's rather interesting also because sticking to protocol, the government is also making its political intents quite clear, because if he is sticking to protocol, he fills up the form. What Mr. Parrikar was saying, he will have to write Indian in the form that he usually leaves blank.
Well, it's going to be very interesting, to watch and see what happens finally, because remember, the government, when we talk of the BJP at the center, the BJP's partner in the state is really the PDP, and we just heard this comments coming in from PDP's Mehbooba Mufti yesterday, where she said that Mr. Geelani in fact should be issued that passport and it should not be in fact made into a political issue. So clearly, either the government here, of course, by intentionally or by will, in fact, is trying to play good cop, bad cop, with the BJP, of course, speaking in one voice and the PDP speaking in another voice, which has been the case on a lot of issues here in the past few months, ever since this alliance came into place. So for the government, really, I think it's going to be a situation where they will take their steps very carefully.
All right, appreciate you joining us, Smita. We're going to keep coming back to you for further updates on that story. Meanwhile, the huge controversy over the issue, the centre has given indication that a passport may be issued to Hurriyat leader Syed Ali Shah Geelani, but only after he sticks to protocol and fills the form. However, earlier today, Minister of State for Home Kiran Rijiju said that a decision in this matter has to be taken in a rational manner, hinting that the government will go strictly by protocol. Meanwhile, sources in the Home Ministry have told Headlines today that passport is a right of every citizen, issued by the Ministry of MEA, and it will process the application on merit. This after the issue became the latest point of contention in the shaky PDP-BJP alliance. While the PDP leader Mehbooba Mufti sought a passport for Geelani on grounds that no father should be denied to meet his ailing daughter, the state BJP earlier said that Geelani should not be given a passport till he proves his Indian credentials. Hurriyat Hawk Syed Ali Shah Geelani had sought issuance of a passport to visit his ailing daughter Farhad Jabin Geelani in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia.
I cannot just comment on a matter which government has to take a political call, or where if a decision is to be taken, it has to be taken in a very rational manner.